I'm in Medellin, a rather large mountainous city in the Republic of Colombia. Now, Colombia might not be the first place you think of if someone says Bitcoin. And technically speaking, we're not even in Central America. But Medellin is a really good place for us to start our journey. And that's because Colombia is often referred to as the gateway to Central America, referring to its geographical position on the northern tip of South America and its role in the regional geopolitics and economy.
And if you've been following this journey from the very beginning, you'll remember that I left Norway with a mission to find out whether Bitcoin is truly becoming freedom money. Along the way, you've also met Carolina, my traveling companion, translator, and invaluable bridge to Latin America. Now, here in Medellin, she has already opened one door for us, as we are about to sit down with her father, Jorge, at the local park, where I hope to gain some insight into how an ordinary Colombian experiences Bitcoin.
Buenos días, Jorge.
Buenos días.
Cuando Nicolai dice Bitcoin, ¿qué es lo primero que se le viene a la cabeza?
No, yo sé que eso, yo tengo el conocimiento que eso es una moneda que se hace una inversión con la moneda. No sé mucho, pues.
So would you invest yourself, Jorge?
Me tendría que estar bien asesorado porque como aquí hay mucha problemática sobre la desconfianza y sobre la misma política, tomémoslo así, porque muchas veces los políticos le echan mano a ciertas cosas y queda uno involucrado con los políticos corruptos, porque es la verdad. Sí, que hubo un problema hace años que Interbolsa es que llamaba y era de los mismos políticos y eso se fue a pique, pero se robaron la plata. No tengo conocimiento bien, ¿se dice Bitcoin o Bitcoin?
Bitcoin.
Ah, y yo Bitcoin.
¿Has escuchado a alguien que haya sido robado o que haya perdido la plata?
No, en la moneda Bitcoin, no.
Pero con otra moneda.
¿Cómo me llama lo que dijiste ahorita? Pirámides, las famosas pirámides. Lo ilusionan con comprar esto, aquello, invierten y cuando tal.
¿Y cómo era esa pirámide?
Él estaba como en un cambiadero de cambio de dólares a plata colombiana o algo así. Y se fue metiendo cuando ya había invertido plata, pero eso venía de España. Quedó limpio.
If we sort of fantasize that Bitcoin would become money in Colombia like tomorrow, would sort of replace the pesos, what would you think about that?
Me gustaría, porque es una competencia a un libre comercio, pues, y fuera de eso es muy importante, porque como hay ciertas malas personas que trabajan mal la plata colombiana y el Bitcoin entrando, ¿sí me entendió? Para mí sería muy bueno. Lo importante es una seguridad propia y hacerle ver a las personas de bajos recursos económicos que ellos no miran un computador para ver la moneda, cómo va, cómo es esto, que le llegue aquí al celular. Es muy importante. Como pobres al celular, como más pobres, un boletín. Sí. Estoy bien.
¿Listo?
I was encouraged to hear Jorge acknowledge Bitcoin's potential as a step toward greater financial freedom. But something about our conversation also left me unsettled. It was clear that fear was holding him back. The risk of scams paired with a lack of clear guidance on how to buy and use Bitcoin safely has kept him on the sidelines. Perhaps it was even a Freudian slip towards the many scams in Colombia when he asked if it was called Bitcoin.
Bitcoin or Bitcoin? Bitcoin.
And I doubt he's the only Colombian on high alert. Jorge's concerns stick with me, because if Bitcoin is meant to empower people, yet fear and lack of education are holding them back, then where can they turn for answers? This tangle naturally calls for a beer, and preferably one paid with Bitcoin. A quick search on BTC Map leads me to Cervecería Libre, and even with my limited Spanish, the name suggests me that this might be the perfect spot for someone in search of freedom. Of course, I don't want to drink alone, so I turn to the local Bitcoin Medellin Telegram group, which I have infiltrated in the name of research. And that's where I connect with Gustavo, a developer and Bitcoin educator dedicated to making Bitcoin more accessible in Colombia. Inside the bar, the noise is, not unexpectedly, a bit of a challenge for my microphones. So we try to find a quieter spot outside.
The music in Colombia, finding a quiet place for recording is impossible. So here in Colombia, there are many people that are interested in Bitcoin.
People buy Bitcoin, yeah. But the most people don't understand Bitcoin yet.
Right. So it's sort of like an investment object.
Yeah, they waiting for the Bitcoin prices grow to sell. We have a community here. We support the circular economy. For example, the project of my friend Jose Lightning Coffee being my cup. Projects like Place Burger, we support this project and we buy in Bitcoin, but support this local economy. It's small.
How do you feel about Colombian pesos?
The inflation is high every day. The people that is conscious about inflation, they use dollar because in our context, dollar is strong. Here in Colombia, we follow United States. If United States is Bitcoin friendly, Colombia even Bitcoin friendly too. Yeah. I feel very sad because most people don't see Bitcoin. So Librería Satoshi is a project to teach Bitcoin in Latin America. The idea is that people can view Bitcoin not only like investment thing, how technology and the potential of freedom for most people. I worked in a Colombian wallet called Wallip. Wallip is an option for beginner people, mostly because they can buy with pesos, Colombian pesos. I am optimistic about future because I think the people will see a Bitcoin.
Talking with Gustavo fills me with optimism. He paints a picture of the early stages of what he calls a circular Bitcoin economy taking shape in the middle of Medellin. And he also describes his own work with Librería de Satoshi and Wallip, projects that sound like they could offer exactly the kind of guidance that someone like Jorge would need. For a moment, I catch myself thinking that Bitcoin adoption and freedom might be just around the corner. But then reality taps me on the shoulder and whispers, to be precise, it's the waitress that is letting us know that Cervecería Libre is closing in a few minutes and we have to settle our tab.
So do you accept Bitcoin? Here.
In this moment,
tenemos, pues aceptamos transacciones en dinero como tal, efectivo.
Our attempt to pay for beers with Bitcoin doesn't exactly go as planned. And Gustavo explains to me that it was kind of my own mistake and a bit of a rookie move as well.
I accept Bitcoin in the Barrio Colombia.
I'd gone to the wrong Cervecería Libre. But still, if Bitcoin is supposed to be freedom money, yet I can't even figure out how to buy a beer with it, then what does that say about its future? We've been investigating Bitcoin as freedom money for a while now, and I realized that we still haven't spent a single Satoshi. At this point, I feel a strange urge taking form. I don't just want to spend Bitcoin. I kind of feel that I need to. Hopefully, someone, or rather something, won't reject my Bitcoin. Because tucked away in a local shopping mall, we come across this little orange beacon of hope and maybe of financial autonomy. A curious looking machine that promises to turn my digital coins into cash. And in a cash-based society, that might just buy me some freedom. Or at least some economic wiggle room. For a small fee, of course, because nothing says financial freedom quite like getting overcharged by a robot. The ATM does accept our Bitcoin, but not without its own conditions. It demands an email address, phone number, a picture of our ID, and an exchange rate that effectively shaves nearly 10% of the market value.
How much? Like 10%. Good for them. They're gonna get rich. I'm gonna have fun staying poor.
If Bitcoin is meant to be freedom money, then freedom, it seems, comes at a price. With a reduced Bitcoin stash, but still determined to get to the bottom of things, I set my course for a place called Mine Crypto Cafe in Poblado. And that's where I meet a 17-year-old Colombian Bitcoin developer and educator, with a name that sounds less like Colombia and more like he should be running a family-owned pierogi shop in Krakow. Jan Tomasewski. We'll get to the story behind that peculiar name soon, but first, Jan has a surprise for me.
I took a wallet NFC card. Basically, it's a lightning card that community of Argentina people make. Inside, there is a QR. It's very, if you show it, blur it. Because it is very important. It's like the private key. Also, it's 100% solid, so they just give you your private key.
I tell Jan about my run-in with the Bitcoin ATM, and he says he might know some cheaper and less intrusive ways to exchange Bitcoin for Colombian pesos.
Exchange of Bitcoin, but literally a house.
An exchange?
Yeah.
His first suggestion sets us off on a trip towards a place called Hash House. And along the way, I do start feeling a little bit uneasy about what kind of hash house Jan is leading me to.
In Norway, do you have laws against weed?
Against weed? Yes.
But it actually turned out to be a perfectly legal space, sort of a hub for crypto enthusiasts. However, by now, I'm starting to feel like luck is not going to be my travel companion. Because when we arrive, Hash House is of course closed, and to top it off, the crypto exchange that Jan tells me used to operate there, where we were supposed to exchange Bitcoin for Colombian pesos, is now permanently shut down, replaced by, of all things, a sex shop called Latin Lover.
Latin Lover used to be a Bitcoin exchange.
But Jan isn't out of ideas quite yet. We regroup and head back to Mine, where Jan introduces me to something called LMP2P bot.
Basically, it's a line.
This Telegram-based bot connects buyers and sellers of Bitcoin, allowing me to exchange my Bitcoin for pesos without using a formal exchange. The bot holds my Bitcoin in escrow, or in simpler terms, keeps it locked until the deal is confirmed, waiting for verification that the buyer has upheld their end of the deal. In this case, transferring Colombian pesos to my bank account. Well, not my bank account, since I don't have a Colombian bank account. Jan is kind enough to lend me his. And once the transfer is complete,
So we have it.
we
Awesome.
can head to a regular ATM where he can withdraw my cash. And the fee? Less than 2%.
KYC, you don't need to put your ID.
It's very cool.
A major improvement over the nearly 10% cut taken by the orange cash machine in the shopping mall.
Important to have a peer-to-peer solution that just works without any fee, without KYC.
But Jan is not done showing me ways to move money in and out of Bitcoin. Check this out, he says, pointing to a machine at mine, one that converts pocket change into Bitcoin. We drop a 500 peso coin into the slot, and moments later, a fraction of Bitcoin lands directly in my wallet. The fee? 10%, of course. It seems like all Bitcoin machines, no matter their function, have reached a unanimous decision on fee structures. Anyway, in the midst of Colombia's, let's say, lively buzz and unmistakable energy, I try, yet again in this series, to find a quiet spot in order to get a sense of what problems Jan believes Bitcoin might solve in the Colombian context.
Colombia is a country with a lot of corruption. You don't know what the government and politicians do with the money. They don't have a book where put every transaction. Bitcoin saves every transaction that is happening in the world. What Bitcoin is, it's transparency. I think that's all a great problem, because you never know where your money is. If you put it into a bank, you don't have that money. How do you know those are real? So knowing where your money is, where did the money come from, it's really important. I think that's the first problem that's solved. Also, other problems are solved. Looking again in the South American point. For example, if I go to the United States to work, I want to send money to my family. I don't want to go to Western Union and pay $20 to send $100. Or I can use Bitcoin, and they have it in less than 10 seconds. And if you see the real life, you're gonna see a lot of people from Latin America and South America that go and work in the United States, wants to send money to their families, and they need to wait 3 or 4 days and paying a fee of $20. So we need to start talking about with Bitcoin you can make money, save money, and fuck the government. That is a really important point of view for a lot of people that are tired of right and left, because we've been 200 years fighting on those sides.
Make money and fuck the government.
Yeah, that's the point.
If we look at Bitcoin adoption, there are maybe two important mechanisms here. Bottom up, like they start accepting Bitcoin, you have circular economies, like a grassroots approach. And then you have more of like a top-down approach where governments will ban Bitcoin, or like in El Salvador, make Bitcoin legal tender. What are your thoughts on these two sort of mechanisms?
Well, I think I have an opinion about regulation. The best regulation is the non-regulation. Why you need to regulate money? But I think it's more important if the people by themselves can start using Bitcoin. I don't trust my government, and I don't trust any government. So, and I think my government is a stupid government. So I think maybe they will find the way to just receive Bitcoin and don't show any address and just accept Bitcoin. So I don't trust my government. So I think I prefer people using Bitcoin. So I would love to see more people educating about Bitcoin. I think that's the job that I need to do the next few years.
Before I part ways with Jan and his friend Julian, that I haven't really introduced before now, I order some dessert for all of us, and this gives me the perfect window that I need to finally get to the bottom of Jan's peculiar name. Or I guess I should say nickname, as it turns out.
So Jan Tomaszewski, it sounds quite Polish. What's the story with your name?
Jan Tomaszewski was the goalkeeper in the 74 FIFA World Cup for the national team of Poland. So an uncle,
74?
74, yeah.
Wow.
An uncle that is a little bit older, just always said to me, Tomaszewski. Yeah, and I just asked from where it's and he told me he's from a goalkeeper from 1974.
Was he good or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some after that, I just found that my grandfather had the FIFA World Cup album, you know, the Panini album, 1974, and I just searched for Poland. Jan Tomaszewski.
Tomaszewski, I remember him, the goalkeeper.
Saved me. Absolutely unbelievable.
Did they? I mean, they didn't win, obviously, the World Cup, Poland. But he made an impression on your uncle.
Maybe.
That's funny.
Although things kinda took a turn for the better once I met Jan at Mind, it hasn't really been easy getting by with Bitcoin as money in Medellin. And that's why I'm not leaving our final stop to chance. Gustavo spoke highly of a burger place called, Burger Place, a spot run by Luis Carlos and his wife Martha. And before we dig into Burger Place's famous burgers, we sit down with Luis Carlos to learn why Burger Place chose to accept Bitcoin.
¿Cuándo empezó Burger Place a aceptar Bitcoin?
Comenzamos hace 2 años exactamente.
¿Y por qué?
Bueno, porque es que primero que todo tenemos mucho cliente extranjero, ¿sí? Y tengo muchos amigos que son bitcoineros, entonces pues ellos me decían, hey, recíbeme Bitcoin. Empecé a recibir el Bitcoin. Y creo que es la moneda del futuro y hay que adelantarnos a todo esto también.
Are there many people that come here to pay with Bitcoin?
Siempre, digamos, por ahí unos un 20% de la gente que está pagando el Bitcoin en este momento.
¿Hay algo como que piensas que te atrae más del por qué invertir en Bitcoin?
Bastante la diferencia, se hace bastante la diferencia, primero por impuestos, lo primero. Segundo, como ustedes dicen, la inflación, el precio está súper desvalorado. Entonces me gusta más a veces que paguen en Bitcoin. Y es muy segura y hasta el momento no tengo problemas con nada, es súper sencilla de manejar.
¿Qué piensas de pronto como acerca de la situación económica en Colombia, del gobierno, como respecto a todo esto?
Bueno, lo que pasa es que el que no conoce la historia está condenado a repetirla, eso es de ahí. Hay una institución a nivel mundial que se llama JP Morgan, que es la que le da los avales a los gobiernos y todo esto, y dice que Colombia no tiene futuro. O sea, no, en ese sentido no hay nadie que quiera invertir en Colombia por las calificaciones que está dando JP Morgan. Pero por eso uno también busca a veces otras entradas y otras cosas. Y el Bitcoin pues, es una de las salidas de nosotros.
¿Crees que de pronto el gobierno empezará como a poner leyes y regulaciones a Bitcoin?
Están en este momento estudiando para regular el Bitcoin.
Bien pueda. Hay como muchos comentarios de muchas personas que dicen, yo me gusta el Bitcoin porque quiero joder al gobierno. ¿Por qué? Porque no pagamos impuestos, porque no tenemos que ir a los bancos a hacer una fila, porque todo lo tenemos a la mano. Entonces, en cierta manera estamos jodiendo al gobierno, ¿cierto? Porque estamos manejando nuestra propia economía.
Sí.
Pero el gobierno quiere adoptar Bitcoin. ¿Qué piensas como de eso?
Bueno, lo que pasa es que yo creo que viendo los resultados de Bukele, ¿sí? En cuanto al Bitcoin, yo no estaría en contra de que adoptara el Bitcoin en Colombia. Mire cómo está El Salvador en este momento. Primero, es uno de los países más seguros, es uno de los países más prósperos económicamente. Yo creo que eso, en vez de ser en contra, va en un pro a las cosas, o sea, en un bien para la economía del país. Y si eso se da, sería magnífico.
As our conversation with Luis Carlos winds down, Martha flips on Burger Place's laser lights. Maybe it's just part of the restaurant's atmosphere, or maybe it's a cue for Luis to tell us about his own laser eyes story. Sorry, that transition was a bit forced, so in case I lost you there, let me explain. Adding laser eyes to your profile picture is a thing in the Bitcoin community. It's a not so subtle way of signaling that you're all in on Bitcoin. Anyway, Luis Carlos dives into the story of how he got his first Bitcoin. A story that now seems almost absurd given Bitcoin's present-day value. Because before Bitcoin had mainstream exchanges, mobile wallets, or even a stable price, there were many strange and unexpected ways to acquire it. Ways that at the time seemed more like digital curiosities than financial opportunities. One of those ways was a handful of obscure online games.
Sí, eso empezaron con juegos. El Bitcoin comenzó como un juego, como moneditas de juegos. Así comenzó el Bitcoin.
¿Hace cuánto fue eso?
Como 15 años más o menos, recién comenzando, como 15 años más o menos.
And one example is the massive multiplayer role-playing game Dragon's Tale, where players could explore, complete minigames, and gamble in a virtual world, earning Bitcoin along the way. At the time, Bitcoin was just a few dollars, and many players treated it as nothing more than in-game credits, spending it freely, unaware that these digital coins would one day become life-changing sums of money. For some, these early BTC earnings disappeared into forgotten wallets or long-lost private keys. But for others, like Luis Carlos, those seemingly insignificant Bitcoin transactions would later turn into a significant and unexpected gain that helped him pay off debt and gave him some more financial freedom. Anyway, the burgers were worth every peso. Or Satoshi. Because as we're about to pay, I'm reminded of all the struggles that we've had trying to spend Bitcoin in Medellin. And now it feels like the final test. I pull out my phone, open my Bitcoin wallet, and hold my breath. If this doesn't work, we might have to spend the rest of our evening washing dishes at Burger Place to pay for our burgers. Then, success. Payment goes through, and just like that, we've finally done it. And we can also enjoy our evening properly without washing dishes. It took a while, but Bitcoin has finally bought us something. And this time, no fees, no ID, no Colombian bank account, and no feeling of being overcharged by a robot. Our time in Medellin is coming to an end. It wasn't the easiest place to use Bitcoin in daily life. Sometimes it came with high fees and reduced privacy. Other times it was simply not an option for payments. But what Medellin lacked in seamless transactions, it made up for in incredible people. Some are putting in tireless work to make Bitcoin more accessible in Colombia. So what does that say about Bitcoin as freedom money? Yeah, I'm not sure yet, but one thing did become clear. Here in Medellin, Bitcoin doesn't seem to be about big institutions or government adoption.
With Bitcoin, you can save money and fuck the government. That is really important.
So maybe freedom money doesn't come from the top? Maybe it starts from the bottom and rises? Or maybe we still don't have the full picture yet, because for now, we got a flight to catch. Next up, El Salvador, the first country in history to make Bitcoin legal tender. And as I edit this, just weeks after our visit there, it has also become the first country to discontinue Bitcoin as legal tender. Because as of January 29, 2025, El Salvador reformed its Bitcoin law, removing Bitcoin's status as legal tender under pressure from the IMF. And businesses are now free to choose whether to accept Bitcoin or not. Need I say, this next stop fills me with a mix of anticipation and uncertainty. Because if El Salvador represents the boldest attempt at integrating Bitcoin into a national economy, then I can't help but wonder, is it proving Bitcoin's potential? Or will I find a reality far removed from the vision?